All right, let's go ahead and get started, Fabian. I'm going to throw the spotlight off to you. It's all yours. Everyone, thank you for joining us. I know people are still joining, but the floor is yours now, Fabian.
Thank you, Alegria and Allison. Well, thank you all for joining us, and one of many of the things that Homeboy Industries has to offer. Today, I'm going to share a little bit about who I am and why I believe the power of the arts is essential to the healing and transformation, not only of our population, but folks in general. I am Fabian Debora. In previous settings, I was the Director of Substance Abuse Services and Programming for a very long time at Homeboy Industries. I was approximately that Homeboy for a decade before I decided to leave and pursue in building out the academy. Initially, where did my theory of practice come from? Is through my personal lived experience. I am an individual who grew up in the housing projects. As you know, of many of the stories Father Greg talks about is Dolores Mission Catholic Church. I lived 5 houses down from Dolores Mission. I grew up in Pico Aliso housing projects. I was 10 years old when I met Father Greg. And when we think about curricula, syllabus, or even just processes, it's really based off my lived experience, because at a very young age, when I was encountered with all this trauma, I'm a first generation Mexican American. Both my parents are immigrants, so the disparity was already in place. I'm from El Paso, Texas. My family's from Juarez, Chihuahua, and they migrated to the United States just like every immigrant family, trying to gain the American dream, as they would say. At a young age, I'm a citizen. I was born in El Paso. We came to the projects in 1980. I was 5 years old. And I remember the love and affection both parents have for each other. And that's what a man looked like when I used to see my father greet my mother, give her a big kiss, and just provide and give her everything she wanted. And that to me was love. But eventually, growing up in Los Angeles, it's a bigger city, faster city, fast paced, and being an immigrant, the jobs that my father had in Texas were no longer available here in Los Angeles. It was minimal access. And so my dad became a drug dealer in order to provide for his family. And that's when I start to see that my father was no longer the man that I admire in a sense. He was now becoming an aggressive individual, hypervigilant, domestic violence, a lot of abuse, a lot of neglect, and abandonment started to happen in my upbringing. So I had to fend for something. I had to figure it out, having to listen to a mother in despair and how she was going to make ends meet. Luckily, I had something much more greater. And I believe God had a bigger plan in his own way, because he blessed me with the gift of art. And when I was 6 years old, I remember when all the disturbances in the household would take place, I would go under a coffee table that my mother had with a long drape. And in order to avoid or escape that reality, I would create my own worlds to escape my reality. Art, whoa, is something that I discovered, makes me feel good, my big brother, and it belongs to me. No one's going to take that away. That was the first initiation of what you will consider today a safe space or a brave space. Go to school, get an education so you can be all you can be, they say. At least that's the ideal dream. But the impact of trauma was in play. So I go to Dolores Mission Catholic School, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, drawing most of the time, escaping my reality, always being sent to the principal's office. 8th grade, just about to graduate. I was about to graduate and give my mom a glimpse of the dream, right? Finish Dolores Mission, go to Salesian, end up in Bosco Tech one day. That was the ideal dream. And in 8th grade, a teacher took it upon himself to rip my artwork in class, just about to graduate from school. And I remember when he ripped my artwork, he reminded me of everything that my father had instilled in the household, the betrayal, the hurt, the pain, the suffering. And he also made me feel so small. He belittled me in front of my classmates as if my art didn't mean anything. Little did he know that that was everything to me. I threw a desk at the teacher, and right there and then I realized that when I threw the desk at the teacher, I got expelled. When I got expelled, they walked me over to Dolores Mission. To the problems, they walked him over to Dolores Mission. That's when I met Father Greg. And I got to share this with you because this is where it all begins. Father Greg, he saw me for me. When I got expelled from school, he did not punish me as the teacher was expecting for Father Greg to punish me. Father Greg actually told me, "What happened, son?" I go, well, this fool read my artwork, G, and no one's going to take that from me but me. And he said, ay, mijo, you're going to get expelled. I can't keep you at Dolores Mission. You're going to go to public school. But before you leave, son, I want you to do something for me. What's that, Father Greg? I want you to go home and draw me something. I was like, what? For the very first time, I'm not being punished and penalized for what I led to do. He actually saw my gift of art and he returned it back to me. Many other reasons why, possibly today, I'm the executive director of the Homeboy Art Academy, because that teacher could have destroyed me for the rest of my life. And like every story is told in the kids from our barrios, you know, drug addiction, incarceration, prison, dysfunctional families, that was me. But art is what saved me on many levels through all my trajectories in life. And that's when I became that practitioner, because I am a well-known artist in my community of Boyle Heights, East Los Angeles, thanks to Father Greg and him infusing the arts at a very young age. And also always walking with me and supporting the arts, regardless of the labels they come with. See, art has been pigeonholed on many levels. Graffiti art, you don't belong. Prison art, you don't belong. Chicano art, it's minimal. I'm fighting and striving for the day to come when we are considered American artists. But because of my ethnicity, I'm always going to be considered a Chicano artist, which limits me into the institutions. So as part of the academy, I was at Homeboy for 10 years. And I knew, and I strongly knew within me that the arts bring a lot of healing and transformation, not only through my own practice, but through the evidence that I've seen throughout my environments, and especially growing up in the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s, and the youth of today, how they find themselves in the art. So it was a must that I fulfill a need here in Boyle Heights. And there's no better person to run this academy than me. And that is not because of ego, but it's because of the intentionality and the responsibility. It's not just a performance. It's deeper than that. And I think for me, when I was developing the Art Academy, I had to think about one thing and everything that was given onto me. I was raised and brought into the Indian reservation or native indigenous reservation of the Mahutasan, the Shumash. And I remember going to those reservations and they would teach me all disciplines of what it is to fire tent, fire keep, sweat lodge. And that in itself started to remind me of something that lives within my DNA, my ancestors. And so it was important for me not only to bring forth the technical elements of art, but the cultural knowledge through ancestral lineages at the same token for Black and Brown youth, and make sure that we are re-inviting them and reconnecting them to their true identities before the impact of trauma. So there they will find their core values, for we come with values, but they've been told in a different way. So how do we create such an academy that is going to allow the youth to reclaim their narrative of their stories and not the way they're being told? Through various multidisciplines, we get at that. I do cultural knowledge, cultural arts. And my goal is my 3 R's: reconnect, re-identify, and then we can reimagine what a future can look like. It is on alignment to what Father Greg has taught me, with a little spice of cultura, indígena, and African American. So we do visual arts, music production, theater improvisation, multimedia, photography, and everything and anything that the arts has to offer. And for me, you know, it is important to be responsive rather than reactive. And so I work with various populations, and we have to keep in mind that everyone's experience is different. What happened to me, it probably isn't what is, although it's similar, but my experience is not the youth experience of today. So I don't like to talk about the big homie syndrome. The big homie syndrome is a misconception in a way that Fabian is going to settle the space. He's going to come and let them know what's up. That's not true. And it's not true in a way that we're only going to cause more harm. It is important for them to settle their own space by allowing coexistence and setting the tone in the space intentionally, for the youth can really share their experience. For what happened in the 80s is not what's happening today. The drugs that took place then are not the drugs at the radar of today. The way the gangs functioned then is not the way gangs function now. infrastructure shift and shape and change, just like the lives of the individual. Although there is a common thread, and in that common thread is the suffering, the pain, the dysfunctionality, the neglect, and everything that we have to endure as folks who come from these lifestyles or in these environments. But how do we develop something that is universal, right? And I think for me, the arts gets at that very well. So I want to show a few things. When we talk about healing circles, we have to be sensitive as well. For a lot of these teachings are indigenous, and these indigenous teachings are sometimes handed and given with permission for us to carry it out. There's issues nowadays where they have, they call it, there's a word when they take things that are of sacredness and they carry it out in ways that is not as respected to the indigenous, to the tradition. There's a word, I'm losing that word, but I know what it's called. So for example, I've been in situations where say, we're gonna have a healing circle, and they run an AA meeting, or they influence it with AA, right? And that's a process group, it's not a healing circle, it's two different things. So we gotta be respectful and mindful of the sacredness of a healing circle. So process groups are AA, relapse prevention, behavior modification, and all these other clinical elements. That's a process group. But in the healing circles, we have to make sure that everything we carry out, at least for me in the academy, is grounded in ancestral practices, is culturally centered and responsive. It's a traditional arts practice, and it's a collective of knowledge and wisdom. It is not teacher-student. It's a healing circle. We're all one, unison, you know. And so that's how we carry it out here in the academy. It is accustomed to develop and create a circle. For here, we all see each other. No one's bigger than the other. We're all neutral here when we sit in a circle. And that is a little more welcoming to the participants, for they feel part of, always symbolic, you know, they feel part of, and it gives them more of a comfort to share. Some of the missions that we have here at the academy is we like to educate foundations and community-based organizations on new ways of driving models to success. A model of success is not a cookie cutter mold. Understand success is a spectrum and is determined by the lived experiences, driven by authentic experiences and grounded in ancestral wisdom. Recognizing the knowledge gained in informal education spaces. So here at the academy, we learn to flip the script. You know, from my own lived experience being that I find myself in dead ends because I don't have the formal education. I don't have the BA or the MFA to make me the artist that I need to be welcome in these high-end institutions. I think now I find myself in dead ends in that, but here we welcome it all. And we challenge those educational systems that continue to limit us or exclude us behind the criteria and requirement of what an artist should be. I believe that art is art as long as it comes from the heart, and everyone here who walks through our door is already a form of art. It's just up to us to help them cultivate those assets. It's strength-based and asset-based, for they bring a lot. And nowadays, you know, with this technology, do we really want to be in an institution? We develop our own and welcome it all in that way. Just like Father Greg taught us, right? They don't give you jobs, they steal jobs. The institution don't welcome you, they make your own. And here we are, the Homeboy Art Academy, and it's successful in that way. And so learning to navigate in the spaces one wants to succeed. I think for me, that's very important as the executive director and community leader. It is important to continue to build bridges amongst community. I work with a lot of institutions, and I work with LACMA. And even though I'm not in LACMA or had an exhibit in LACMA, I still work with Los Angeles County Museum Art, LACMA, MoMA, you know, Los Angeles Municipal Art Gallery, and always trying to find bridges and build community in ways that they're going to open the door for the creative economy. We're working with Disney Animation. Also, we have a collaboration with Disney Animation, also Converse, and it is important to cultivate those institutions with hopes that they too can create access and inclusion, as we are now fighting for that equity, inclusion, and access. And so far, so good. And I think it's about narrative storytelling and creativity that has allowed for some of these institutions to really look within these communities. But we have a lot to offer as well. To use cultural practices and models that center lived experiences, always the center, lived experiences the host to credentialize. So another thing that I'm trying to do is the day will come when we start to credentialize lived experiences. For professionalism and lived experience should coexist in the space. And together we can make the world a safer place. The day has not come yet, but there are times when people come and interview me over and over and over again to write their thesis. And they go out and get credit and they get their credentials. And yet Fabian takes the back seat and waits for the next interview to come by. But if I am that much of a wisdom figure and I am that much of a teacher, practitioner, when do I get credentialized? And I think those are the directions we're trying to move towards now, because a lot of it has to do with working with gangs. We want to figure it out. We want to see what are the best modalities and knowledge. Well, we have a lot of those things, but we're not in the field quite yet because of the lack of education, right? So anyways, I don't say that to discredit anyone who has these beautiful degrees. I just say the invitation is, when do we get to a place where we can coexist? For I can give as well as you can give me. Together we learn and grow and evolve. That's the goal out of the academy. That's when we start shattering the ceiling. I call it the glass ceiling, right? Where you can no longer go up. And that's how we began to, shatter the glass ceiling, ambiguous to those who live in the margins. And the 3 R's I mentioned earlier, there's also a need to respond to racism and the ripple effect it has created in the Americas, using community cultural methodologies to address social injustices, reconnect, re-identify, and reimagine. And I think that is what is another thing. We challenge the systems of oppression for a lot of the years. A lot of the times we blame ourselves for a lot of the choices we have made, not knowing that these choices have been made for us. And that started with my immigration, when my parents, if they had any other choice, or they would give me a manual before I would come to this earth, I could check the boxes that I need in order to succeed. But sometimes you're given the cards that you're dealt with, and you got to make them work. And that's when the impact of trauma began. But then we recognize that there's a system that is not created to watch you fail, but it's set up in ways that it's going to make you, that circumstantial barriers and all that good stuff that come with that impact. Anyway, so I could keep on going. I'm just throwing things out there, like, for example, engagement, building community, right? Socratic seminar, right? A formal discussion. This is how we build community in the space. And I talked a little bit about it earlier, which is our circle practice. Socratic seminar, a formal discussion based on text in which the leader asks open-ended questions. That's very important. Within the context of the discussion, students listen closely to the comments of others, thinking critically of themselves, and articulate their own thoughts and the responses to the thoughts of others. And I think trauma informed is at the center of all this, and the fact that I was a clinician, drug counselor for a very long time. I'm a state certified drug counselor. I'm very mindful when it comes to working with populations. You'd be surprised how the smallest thing could cause harm. There was a lady one time, and we were at a camp. I'll share where we're at throughout, like, how our reach is so far. In this case, the camp, we were at a camp one day. And then this lady comes up out of nowhere. She meant well. She brought a box of cereal and then some thread. And she says, "Hi, Fabian, great to meet you. You're going to be co-facilitating with me?" I go, "Yeah, I'm here for the ride. Great to meet you too. What do you plan to do?" "Well, I was thinking of making some little bracelets." "In which way?" "Well, with the cereal right here, Lucky Charms, got some little hearts, little charms, and then they can make these little bracelets." And I was like, okay, sounds very kindergarten to me, but let's give it a shot, I guess. I know that was a train wreck. I knew it was coming because these are camp kids who have been terrified and traumatized by the educational system, let alone, other things, right? So she comes in, pulls out the little, "Hey, we're going to make little bracelets. Everybody grab a little bowl of cereal, get your little charms, and this is how we do the bracelets." The kids, one of them was like, excuse my language, but it sounds more with emphasis. What the fuck is this? Oh, we're gonna do bracelets. Just grab the little three and go, this bullshit, bro. And I'm sitting there like, I'm not gonna save her. I'm just letting her be. I knew it was coming. And then she's like, what do you mean? What's wrong? What's wrong with you? You don't feel like participating? He goes, it's not even that. Only this is that kindergarten shit. You know what I mean? This is bullshit. As a matter of fact, you don't even know. I'm terrified of cereal, by the way. Why is that? I used to take care of my little brother and sister while my dad was getting high every day on heroin. My mom had to go to work, and all we had for lunch, breakfast, and dinner was fucking cereal. And now you're gonna bring that shit to the studio, to the camp? Boom. Yep. Trauma informed. Be careful on the smallest thing that you bring. And if you're not aware of how certain things can trigger, she could have probably asked me. I gave her I said, I don't know. I tried to warn her, but she moved forward with it. It's not a bad thing. It just means we have to be respectful, mindful of the populations that we serve. For your experience, it's not my experience. And we all have many. And sometimes as simple as the cereal can trigger the shit out of a youth. And once that kid got triggered, what did that do? It derailed the whole dynamic of the space. So for that day, the class wasn't as expected. And then they call on me, Fabian, bring it back. I said, no, you bring it back. Because I'm not the big homie. I'm not the correct defined homeboy that's gonna, hey homie, kick it, fool, calm down, dog. You know, that goes back to that institutional mindset. I'm not using my power for that type of arena. It's not healthy for anybody. So that's a lesson learned. I throw that out there because we are very careful and mindful of what we bring, what questions we ask, and how we hold the space. For the last thing we want to do is cause more harm than help. That is not our mission. And so then we do restorative justice. Restorative justice. That's what is at the center of the Homeboy Art Academy, cultural restorative arts. We are also restoring the name of the arts because arts education is needed, but sometimes arts education is not at the front. It shouldn't be at the front. What does I say? It shouldn't take the lead at times. And I'll share another thing. And it's not a bad thing. Please, when I share this, it's just about understanding time and place, scaffolding. When do we bring certain things in? When is it too much, too fast? How are we building relationship in order to get a response from the population that we're serving in the most productive way? Is it a spin-off? Is it a 12-week course? Is it a 6-week course? All that matters when you're scaffolding and trying to get at an end result. And I've seen it happen again in other spaces. For example, when you say they come into the space, we do a quick check-in, where you're at 1 through 10, that lets me know, where they're at. 1, doing bad. 5, I'm cruising. 10, I'm doing great. Whatever, that kind of sets the tone and informs me of where the dynamic of the space is at. Also followed by a prompted question. A prompted question can be anything from, where does your name come from? Share a little bit about your name. Do we know? Because of course, some of them might say, I'm Smokey. They call me Flaco, because that's the first thing they want to show off. And sometimes they're on stage, so they want to show off. But how do you bring it back without judgment and without embarrassing them and giving them the spotlight? That's the art. Because if you go up against it, you challenge it, now you're on the spotlight. And now you have a stage. And the kids love the stage. And they're going to react. So for me, it's a prompted question as simple as, what's your name? For example, I like to model. My name is Fabian. And what I know about my name is that my mother named me behind a famous rock star from the 50s. His name was Fabian. And that's where I got my name. That's the trip, bro. What's your name? And then they do a quick check-in in that way. Because sometimes the goal is to see them, allow them, for a lot of the times they feel unheard, invisible. Let's start there. So the more you can see them by prompted questions that ignite and get them to share of themselves, by the 4th week, then we can start bringing in some get out of the box type of shit. You know what I mean? Because I've seen it more than often where we're going to do a little game. Everybody stand up. Everybody stand up. And keep in mind, these are homies. These are gang members. in the camp, and they're not to share vulnerabilities, because the mind tells me that I ain't no punk and I'm not to show weakness. Now you're in a setting of a camp, an institution with pure gang members, and then you invite them to wiggle, wiggle, jiggle, jiggle, and shake the shoulders. You're an apple, you're an orange, you're an apple, you're an orange. When I say orange, you're gonna jump. When I say apple, you bend your knees. The fuck is that, Holmes? You see, and that's okay, but I will bring that like 10th week, when you already have a relationship. And somehow we miss the mark and we start with that and you shut them down right away and it leads to something else. It's not to take away. I'm only sharing the variables in arts education than traditional practices. If you are to bring in some artwork that is in relation to their experiences, you will have more of a response into engaging into arts education. So for me, I flip arts education on its head. For art education hasn't been kind to me either while I was in school. My art's not considered to fall in the 5 strands of California. So how do we begin there? So I usually introduce Diego Rivera, Frida Kahlo, right? Depending on the population, African American, I bring artists who are in relation to them. And then I say, and now here's Caravaggio. And they're like, oh shit, dog, because you started with what they can relate with into something larger or into where we're trying to get. Those are all little testimonials. So restorative justice addresses the root causes of harm to acknowledge the internal and external factors that have contributed to trauma. In doing so, community members develop accountability and obligations to make things right and make amends holistically. Restorative arts practices, that's what we use. And I think it's important for them to recognize who they are within all these traumatic experiences. And then they start to recognize the ripple effect that has affected them. And then they're so far removed, then they start to feel and reconnect in ways that they're going to understand the full spectrum of the picture. If my parents weren't immigrants, we wouldn't have been as poor. There wouldn't have been as much disparity, which then triggered me to become it. And they start seeing the whole picture and they start to, feel lighter little by little. And we get at this visually, theater, music, etc. I like to talk about everything that I do is a ceremony. It's ceremonial. The kids don't know this. The youth don't know this. The participants don't know this. But it is through a ceremonial processes. So let's prepare for the space. I say, what's the ritual for the space, right? Let's have a workshop. I say, where's the ceremony? So I just take the words and flip it. You say workshop, I say ceremony. Let's prepare the space. What is the ritual? Which is a little more intentional, a little more grounding, a little more in depth. And I think for me, the framework that I've learned to use for my ceremony, in this case for the Academy, in this case for any workshop that I hold, is based around the Sweat Lodge framework. And the Sweat Lodge is a ceremony that is offered to me by my elders who have taught me, but they don't need to know this, but it is all intentional in the framework of the Sweat Lodge. For the fire is what needs to be tended to in order to sustain the ingredients, in this case, the rocks, that then set up the ritual for the ceremony, which is community, the Sweat Lodge. So what are those things in you? If you are the fire, what in you needs tending in order to create the ritual to begin the journey into the Sweat Lodge? The Sweat Lodge is made of 16 willows. What are the 16 willows that sustain the community? 4 of them, populations I serve, gang-related, elderly, the race, depending on the cultural race, right? African-American, Black, Brown. And then I also have foster children, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I get to pick foster children. Okay, 4 agreements. 4 of my other willows are the 4 agreements. Don't take things personal. Foster kids, don't take shit personal. And then what is the 4 elements, right? We got fire, wind. So wind to me is a breath of life. Let's take that. Let's take a little bit of breath of life. How do we get them to take that breath of life? So I take all those willows, that's the framework. And then we put 4 rounds, which are 4 sessions, right? And in these 4 sessions, it could be broken up as well, depending. So that is the framework. I mean, I pretty much just having ceremony in the space through the framework of the NIPI, which is a sweat lodge. Also, my next goal is to begin to enhance ethnic studies here in the academy. I think if we're a social justice organization, we should have ethnic studies. It does not make sense not to have any ethnic studies that is going to give them back their core values in order to really get a grasp on what it is and what role we played and who we were and where we're going, etc. So there's a hint of ethnic studies in the cultural arts and the traditional practices and wellness for therapy. So it's a mixture of both. And I also want to make sure that the clinical elements and the traditional elements either coexist, but don't overkill or don't override each other. You know, that's the way I see it, because I think when we talk about evidence-based practices, what are the measurements? What are your outcomes? You know, until we get to a place where we have cultural responsive efforts, or because healing, what healing looks like for me does not look like for my participant. Healing is broad. What are we healing from? Maybe that's the beginning, but I always want to make sure that that we're carrying both equally, because traditional arts practices have also been swallowed by mental health in a way, because they call it non-traditional. And I've been in certain spaces where they say, oh, so you do the non-traditional art stuff. No, homie, what I do is the traditional art stuff. What you're doing is non-traditional. I don't get into it in the moment, but you see, that's the kind of picture I got to deal with. They're like, and then, anyway, so that's a little bit of the Homeboy Art Academy. I can share with you a little bit of where we're at. We're currently, for example, we work with Tehachapi. I'm in the state penitentiaries throughout North California. I'm in Tehachapi State Prison working with lifers. I'm also in California City and also North Kern County. And these are 3 state penitentiaries. Lifers are level 4, and we hope they get a second chance. California City is more like a level 2. They have more privileges, more access to tools and things, so we can expand the curriculum a little broader. And then both of them are like level 2. So when you're working with a level 4 yard, you're limited in the materials you can bring. Yes, they have catalogs, you know, they can order variables and art supplies, but they're limited as well. And so we make miracles out of graphite, ballpoint pens, watercolor. We got to be careful. We can't bring an Indian ink for the tattoos, and so on and so forth. So many limitations, although the most important part of the lifers and working with them is the restorative cultural arts practices. And I have many stories. We have one great story, and I'm trying to look at time, but Alegría, just keep me on check, yes? I just don't want to keep on babbling, blah, blah, blah. But it's all good stuff. And working in the Tehachapi State Prison, there was a guy named Al, and I'll say his name because he's not with us at Homeboy Industry. That guy has been down for 18 years. And when he was incarcerated, I would come in there every Saturday and I would do art with him, and then he'll question me and so on. And one day he goes, hey, bro, I'm doing the internal work. I go, that's good, bro. You have to, homie, because that's the only way you might get a second chance when you go to board. And he's like, bring me a restorative justice book. And so I said, all right, I'm going to do that for you. We brought him a book. Next Saturday, he goes, hey, I finished it. I said, what? I go, you already, I read it. I answered a few of the questions. I go, nah, man, one thing is reading the book. Another thing is action. He didn't like that shit. He like, what? All right, fool. Next 3 Saturdays, he wouldn't talk to me. And I was like, hey, homie, you all right? And like, yeah, it's cool, Holmes. It's cool, Holmes. And so then the next Saturday, he goes, Fabian, let me talk to you, bro. I'm like, what's up? Hey, fool, I'm going to have to make amends right now. You know, I stabbed you like 15 times in my head. I go, what? He goes, yeah, bro, you got me so mad, homie. I had to fight my demons, man. I didn't want to shank you. Every time you come on Saturday, my head will take you. And I had stabbed you like 15, 20 times. And I go, damn, homie. I go, so that means I got to start wearing a vest now? He goes, no, bro, but you said something very important, my boy. Because all my life, I've just been bullshitting in a way that I know how to speak, but I don't know how to act. in ways that I carry out with the message or whatever that is. So I gotta thank you, bro. I said, all right, homie, I just hope I don't get stabbed though, man. I'm just trying to do the right thing here. And so then fast forward, I get a call one day from Homeboy Industries, Hector. And he goes, hey, fool, they're looking for you. I go, who? Some dude, bro. Some dude's looking for you, bro. And I go, damn, do I owe him money or what? And he's like, nah, homie, that fool said he met you in prison. I go, when? I go, just give me his name. He goes, here, fool, let me put him on the phone. And he's like, what's up, Fabian? It's Al, bro. I like, what the heck? I got a second chance, my boy. And he got out. And I said, and you came to the right place. As I said, I took your words. You said the minute I get out, I'll come to Homeboy. I did, bro. And I'm right here. And they hired him. He's been out 9 months. He got his daughter back. He got to an apartment. And he's now a pastor. And he's doing good. And he's came to the academy. And you'd be surprised how a little love and a little bit of work and God created. He got a second chance and is doing the damn thing. We're also in camps and juvenile halls working with all these youth. We got juvenile halls. We're in camp, like various camps throughout this here in the county. Camp Nerd Off, Central Juvenile Hall, Nerd Off Juvenile Hall, Kilpatrick, Camp Rocky, and Camp Page. And we're also carrying out 12-week sessions, twice a week, 12-week sessions. I got 6 teaching artists in the academy who are currently in the field, a mixture of education, a mixture of education and also lived experience. It is both. It's beautiful to have them both in the space. And
hey,
also,
Fabian.
Yes.
Hi, I'm going to interject. I don't want you to keep going, but I do want you to keep going. And even Nikki's been trilled. Nikki says, let him babble, let him go on. But we are on a schedule, unfortunately. And I do want everybody attending to have this experience that you're gonna put on for us in just a moment.
All right. Well, thank you for checking me, because I was just trying to throw in a whole steak. And I was trying to have a whole dinner here. But I just go on, and thank you. It's so much. I mean, the Homeboy Art Academy. I mean, it's a long vision of mine that I have been.
It's a beautiful and very long vision, and we're going to see it through, definitely.
Yeah, eventually. So what I want to do today is invite you all to do a little hands-on exercise. And, how do I take the traditional arts practices and the medicine bag, a teaching that was handed to me by an elder, and utilize it symbolically for the well-being of the person. And so if you were invited to grab a little piece of paper, 8.5 by 11, if you have that in front of you, if you have a pencil, a pen, a highlighter, whichever drawing utensil you may have, we can go ahead and follow me as best possible. Because of the pandemic, we've been living in Zoom, Microsoft, and various platforms to get our healing across. So we're gonna go ahead and utilize this platform, and I'm gonna bring up the whiteboard and walk you through a quick exercise. And in this exercise, the medicine bag is symbolic, which carries the sacredness of the medicine when you go into a ceremony. And that medicine is what you put into it, either spiritually, right, through prayer, meditation, or whatever it is definition that defines you. And we're going to use 4 elements in this medicine bag. And then one of them is going to be sage, tobacco, stone, and sweetgrass. And those are 4 medicinal elements that come from our native people, indigenous people. And we're going to pretend symbolically that we're putting sage into our bag, a stone in our bag, sweetgrass in our bag, and also tobacco. But the first thing we need to do in order to put and fulfill the bag, we have to draw our very own medicine bag. So feel free to grab your pencil. I'm going to go ahead and go to the whiteboard. And just kind of follow me. When you see, if you're using a pencil, you're going to sketch softly, right? Oh, don't tell me. Hold on. All right, there it goes. Let me see. Give me a second. All right. So my yellow is your pencil, which to me, the yellow signifies sketchy, very light. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to do a very light, like a oval shape like that. And then underneath that, you're going to do a very light circle as best you can. There's no art competition. There is no right or wrong in art. It is a freedom of expression. Art is unique to you and how you create it. A lot of times when I do these art projects, I don't know how to draw. Look at mine. It looks dumb. You know, you get all this negative talk that comes from these youth. But in this case, we're just going to use the freedom of expression and take pride in what we're drawing. Once you have those two circles, we're going to connect a little line here and then another one here. Just kind of unifying both of those shapes. Now that you have that, we're just going to run some little lines coming down here like this. Just like little wiggly lines. If you see the medicine bag is taking shape, these are leather straps. But first we're putting the foundation lightly. And then once you have that, we're gonna go ahead and make the inside the circle. You see the circle here, you're gonna do like these little waves like this. And then connect it there. And on the outer, we're gonna do the same thing. All right, I'll give you about 30 seconds to catch up. Okay, once you have your sketch, your foundational drawing, you know, your outline, I will get the pencil, or if you're going to use a different tool, you can outline it out. So what I do now is I can come back, follow those slight lines, and just refine it. And then these, I'll just double them now. And then usually a medicine bag is, and then here you're gonna make little lines that go down from these little loops here. And then you'll just do a little rope, like a little string in between them. That's like your tie. And you have a little string that goes around. And that's your tie. And then, of course, once you have your actual outline, you can come back, get rid of the sketchy lines. In this case, my yellow lines. And that gives you a cleaner medicine bag. And of course, if we had time, a little bit more time, we can start shading it, give it a little bit of character. Could give a little bit of character, you know, a little shading, make it look round. And you can do that on your own time, add a little love to it. Usually we have the 4 directions in the middle. That's what I would put as a symbol, right? But if it doesn't have to be, since it's a personalized medicine bag, you know, I could always put, you know, my initials, right, if I want. You could just make it to your liking, to whatever it is symbolic to you. Okay, so let's just say we have the medicine bag, and now that we have the medicine bag, this is part of the restoration. This is part of the healing. And so now that I have the medicine bag and the youth have it, and I check in with them, everybody thumbs up, everybody got their bag. Yeah, okay, so now we're gonna take some time to begin to drop in some of the medicine. So some of so we usually invite kids when we're doing the medicine bag on the physical space and we create our medicine bag out of leather and hands-on, I lay out the medicine. And the medicine, we get a pinch of sage, and sage is for purifying. Sage is for prayer. This medicine is with the intention to purify our spirits, rid of any negative energies, any distracting thoughts, hearts and pats. The smoke is what carries our prayers or best wishes to be asked to protect, to be protected, or to protect those we love. So sage signifies purification. So if sage, I'll put here, like when working with them, I'll say sage purification. So I asked them to write this next to it. Then they'll leave some space in between. Once you have the sage and you have put it in your medicine bag, we're going to get the stone. The next one is stone. And stone is the connection that we have with our grandfathers, right? Grandfather, tonkas, we call them. But stone also comes from Mother Earth, which signifies grounding. So I will put stone for grounding. And the next medicine that we're going to learn and understand is tobacco. So I will put tobacco. And tobacco is considered a gift of acknowledgement, honoring, right? Honoring, acknowledgement. Usually in the Indian reservations, when you're invited or when you come to a ceremony, you tend to give tobacco, a pouch of tobacco to the water pourer, the firekeeper, or anyone who is going to share their wisdom. And so you give them this in honor for receiving what they're going to give to you. The other medicine element is sweetgrass. And sweetgrass has a beautiful smell. And it's long grass and it's usually braided. And the sweetgrass signifies peace, right? It's a sacred plant. It's used in ceremony, smudging, smoke, burning sweetgrass, as well as for prayer, meeting personal needs, and asking Creator for peace and positivity. So I would say sweetgrass is for peace and positivity. So that's what I asked the youth to write on their side. So now the question to you all is, take this time, in the next 3 minutes, and ask yourself, what if sage is for purification, what in you needs purifying? What are some of the things that you have learned or recognized that may need some purifying? Is it anxiety levels? Is it a relationship with a loved one? Is it something that is holding you back and you wish its negative energies would just dissipate? What in you needs purification, or what in you may need some to become purified? Think about that and write a few sentences around that purification for yourself. Or it could be a loved one, a community member, or an ancestor, something that you haven't dealt with or someone you haven't told. So when we work on these projects, the 3 things we work towards is ancestors, community, and identity. So then the next one is stone. What in you may need grounding at this time? What are some of the things that you can put into practice that can bring some grounding for your life if you're not already doing so? When you think of grounding, what does that look like for you? In order for us to feel grounded, in order for us to find purification, if tobacco is for honoring, who in our lives are we honoring? Are we honoring ourselves? Are we honoring a loved one, an ancestor, a grandma, a grandpa, someone who has helped us in our trajectory of our lives, a mentor? Who is that person's spirit that you're carrying with you? It could be in the physical, or it could also be in the spiritual. Bring them with you in your medicine bag. Sweetgrass, we all want peace in our lives, and we all want positivity. In order for me to find peace within myself or peace in my community, what does it look like? What is it that I think I need in order to find peace? So to Creator, to God, to Jesus, however you foresee him or her, whichever God of your understanding. What is it that you're asking of for peace in your life, in your community, in your household, whatever it is you think you need? Take some time to answer those, and I invite the participants to go ahead and begin to answer those questions and medicinal elements. And then once they're answering them, it's all about mind, body, and spirit. It's about mindfulness. It's about knowing that as long as you know deep in your heart that in you, or whatever it is in you to be purified, it's going to take place. Only if you keep an open mind and open heart and a stronghold belief that that will come to you. Grounding also followed by intention. Always with intention, knowing that you need some grounding, or whatever it is you do for grounding may become sustained when intended, and intention always. And reminding yourself of that. And whoever it is you're honoring today, whether it's yourself, a loved one, what are the traits? What are those things that that person you're honoring have given to you, that have helped you, that have held you, that have made you sometimes? If so, put that in your bag and bring them with you, and let's carry those memories and those things they've done onto us. And Sweetgrass, peace. What is it that in us needs peace, or in our communities? And what does that look like? And when we ask for peace, what are we asking for? So think about those, write a little bit about it. And then once you have that written out, we will go ahead and come back, and the remainder of the time, we can, if we have the courage, or if you feel up to it, we never push people to share, but we do, it's always an invitation. We invite you, only if you feel comfortable in doing so, to share a little bit about these 4 elements and how they serve, or may serve you in your life. And only share what you're comfortable in sharing. And when I do these, I always remind folks that we're all here. Maybe in this space, we might not know each other, but the one thing that we always ask for in the agreements is to be mindful and respectful of one another. For whatever it is important to me, might not be as important to the next person, but it doesn't mean that we ignore it, or doesn't mean that we laugh about it or reject it in any form or way. So we invite you to be present. We invite you to be mindful, respectful, and make space and allow space for those who are willing to share. I'm going to go ahead and remove this screen, and then we're going to bring it back. That was probably better than the rambling on, huh, Allison?
It's always great. It's always great. I wanted to,
There's
people
nothing
are,
like hands-on.
no, it's beautiful. People are still reflecting and thinking about all the different elements that they're putting into their own bag, their own medicine bag. I just wanted to share with you, Nikki had sent me a message, and she said that he might be an awesome artist, but his voice is so soft and gentle. Bless him. So she sends her love from across the pond.
Thank you. And I think a lot, and I think these are all part of it, right? It's like,
Absolutely.
When you're holding space, it's the setting of the space, the tone, the prompted questions, being mindful, respectful, making everyone feel comfortable. And that is pretty much what you're going to receive in the circle, or in the dynamic of the space, and how you're modeling and how you're tending to the space. Like I said, tending to the fire with care, love, compassion, mindfulness. It's just like holding them in such a way that's going to allow for the vulnerability to come out if need be at the time. And now it's all part of the facilitation. So yes, this is part of the facilitation. So when we hold space, a lot has to do with the facilitator too. So thank you for capturing that in that way.
Absolutely. I also want to, as we start to open up the space here, and just remind everybody, this space is a safe space. It's a respectful space, and you can share if you'd like to. And if you're not willing to share, because it is vulnerable, it's a vulnerable space. So if you're not willing to share, that's okay. We have stuff popping up in our chat. If you also have any questions for Fabian, we have a couple of minutes to go ahead and put through. Allison, Sage, her purification, just more intention with exercise, grounding, better practice schedule. The COVID times have shaken up daily practices of sleep and exercise. Oh my goodness, for sure. I think that's for everyone. Tobacco and honor for my dad who has entered hospice last weekend. He is 90 and is the reason that I have been able to embrace this homeboy family and the idea and holding big space, and the more the merrier. And Allison, we continue to hold you and your family through this time. Peace and Sweetgrass, she also states, for my family, just to bring peace during this time. Absolutely. And just like Allison shared, you don't have to raise your hand in the chat, but if you wanted to post something within the chat, I am more than happy to read it if you would like me to. The other thing too, if you wanted to share your medicine bag, please, I'm Alegria Castro. I'm on, my profile is on the site. You can email me a PDF picture and I can upload it later to the file within this session so that you can go back through and you can share and see everybody else's images if you're comfortable with that. We do have time again to have any questions that you have for Fabian. The Homeboy Art Academy, the practices within camps.
The chat's disabled from what I can see.
Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, so let me see if I can. Oh, I won't be able to check. So you know what? If you are able to, go ahead and throw in a question, but I'm going to ask everybody one at a time. Kat, are you able to disable that for us while we're in session, or is it because we're in session we cannot?
I think a co-host needs to be able to disable or enable the chat.
Alegria, this is Jessica. I can do it from my end if you want me to.
Yes,
the
please.
Chat here.
Can you? Yeah.
Okay, try that and let me know if it works.
Okay, perfect. So if anybody wants to share in through chat, you have any questions that you want to see? Fabian, do you want to add anything else?
No, I think, yeah, leave it open to the floor. How many of us here or anyone here have utilized the arts in the work they do, or are even thinking about implementing some of the arts? Any guests here might be entertaining that thought? No. It's a long day, probably.
It is a long day.
I could tell.
But Julie Wood says, thank you. This is beautiful, Fabian. It's so, so good. I really appreciate everything you've said.
I would love to start incorporating the arts, but at this point, I think that's a ways off for our organization because of we're still pretty small and new and, just due to capacity. So hopefully in the future, as we're doing more things towards healing, that this will be a priority.
And I think, why the arts are very important is because for me personally, there are many ways of healing, and arts is one of them. People have used yoga, people have used hiking, people have used variables in trying to get at some of the healing. But the arts is also a way to remove the stigma and that comes from mental health at times from that type of setting, and we redirect them that way at times. So it goes hand in hand. Sometimes they learn and find their way into a more intensive therapy setting by doing the arts. They might not start there, but they start here wanting to explore a little more in depth, some therapy or some sense of one-on-one. But that's the beauty, and the arts gets at a lot of the same things that mental health is trying to get at, but we do it in a much more subtle, interactive, expressive way, and we still meet that end result.
Fabian, there is a question from Gretchen. What restorative art books and resources do you recommend?
Well, there's a lot of them out there, but I think it depends on there's so many teachings. But you know what I could do though? If there's a way to, you have her information, Alegria, I can send it. Yeah, that'd probably be the best way. I could send you a few of my favorites, and maybe you can begin with one of them and see if that resonates. You know what I
Great.
mean?
Let me see, what else do we have here?
Maybe I'll
So
just jump in. And Fabian, in response to your question, asking about others folks here who use the arts, I'll just share quickly. I run a project called the Men's Story Project, where men publicly share very personal stories about their own lives in different artistic mediums. You know, so it's been prose, poetry, sometimes even comedy, dance, music with original lyrics, and it's been really powerful. You know, the group process is a combination of reflection on social issues broadly, reflection on their own lives, sharing their works in progress with each other. And we've definitely found that it's so powerful when people are reflecting with different artistic forms of expression.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, storytelling, you know, and it also helps with our narratives, big time. And no one's telling that for us in ways that is sometimes harmful, you know. So thank you for sharing that, Jocelyn.
I'd like to add to that real quick. This is Ted Greeley from King County. I work in Seattle. I work with young men and women ages 16 through 24 getting their GEDs and diplomas. And one of the things we've been able to do with a small group of those kids is make t-shirts. We bought a bunch of equipment to make t-shirts. So it ended up being a group of young men, all of whom have had their own various types of trauma that they've been through. And the group was just a real anchor point, especially during the pandemic time, to kind of have some fellowship and do something creative and teach some entrepreneurship skills along the way. So I'm not myself, I'm not the most artistic person, but it's definitely helped me tap into kind of my own artistic nature, and just help others explore that and work with professionals in the industry too, who can guide us a little bit and kind of point us in the right direction.
Yeah, man. And one thing I learned in the creative economy, they're not so critical about a background check. They just hire you for your talents, pretty much. And that's a win-win, especially working with our population. You know, I mean, they're just more about the creativity, your talents. They really don't have too much concern on background checks. You know, so that's a win-win, especially those in the workforce who have a hard time trying to place homies and homegirls. You know?
Yeah, that's how it should be.
Right.
Hi, Fabian. I have a question as well. So like this was really helpful for me. And I'll share like, so the sage, I couldn't think about what I could purify, but then I realized that like just what you said about holding space is purifying for people, which includes myself, people coming from trauma, people who will hold space when they come from trauma spaces, which is where people like there's no space. So that's like that was really helpful for me, and like hoping to give that to other people. Like I know that I could use this, but I was wondering, like, I guess this kind of goes off the earlier question, like are there other like just resources? Like I'm not an art teacher, like I don't really like know where to look.
There's a lot of it's about, I think for me personally, there's various of it. So like some of these, like these are the medicine bag is one of many curriculums that I have a whole cookie jar full of them, and you don't have to be a MFA, a master artist to get at some of this work, right? There's one I call A Window to Your Soul, and all you need is a little piece of paper like this. Symbolically, you say, share with me a little. I'm gonna share a little bit about my window to your soul. Take a little piece of paper, put it on your chest. Now you have a window to your soul. Share that one thing that is important to you. It's either a place, a person, or a thing. What is it in your window to your soul that you would like to share with the world? And it's just about doodling. The other one I have is tracing your hand. You know, when you were in kindergarten, you would trace your hand to do your turkey for Thanksgiving or what have you. I do the same thing, count them on the palm of your hand. How many of folks do you know who have been there for you through thick and thin since day one? I bet we can count them on the palm of our hand. Maybe it's one, maybe it's all five, maybe it's just one. And then they trace their hand, they decorate it, and then they write down the name of the person. And then they put the relationship and the gesture they bring on to them. And now they have, you know, now you have a talking piece. So they're pretty much like talking pieces. The artwork is more like the vehicle to get at whatever it is, the setup to the wound, right? Or the pain. So I have many resources. I have various curriculums that I've already published and that I can give as gifts for you all to practice with your participants if you would like. Alegría, we'll make sure to get that. Or I don't know what's the process, Alegría, if they want.
Yeah, I would
reach
just
out
have
to me.
everybody reach out to me. Yep, exactly. Everybody
Okay.
reach out to me. My email is within my profile. You can send me a private message through the platform here. You can also send a message to Allison last, but definitely once we get those resources for you, we'll post them up within the session under files and you can access it there. But please send me a private message or go ahead and email me. So I think we've got a couple more minutes. Yes.
Yeah, let me jump in really quick. It's Allison. So a lot of people are asking about sort of connecting with Fabian specifically. Sorry, between my earrings and my ears and my mask. So email Alegría and myself through the Global Homeboy Network. We do technical assistance, and our job now, Alegría and me, is to connect all of you to the things at Homeboy that you want to be further connected to. I would encourage you, when it's safer to be in Los Angeles, we're sort of Delta variant. There's too much of it here, but when it's safer to travel to LA, we'd love to have all of you, any of you, come for technical assistance. We can certainly do more Zoom sessions, but an in-person experience that can be anywhere from 2 to 3 days. We would love to plan that and then have a visit to the Homeboy Art Academy be a big part of that if you're interested in that. But sort of now Alegría and myself need to connect you further to the organization and the things that you want to do deeper dives with. So just reach out and email us and we will definitely be connected with you. It's the whole idea of the Global Homeboy Network, and we love to offer the technical assistance because we also have this exquisite mutuality that goes on, and we learn so much from all of you in the work that you're doing. And so just we encourage you to plan visits, and we'll together sort of determine when it's safer to do that.
Also, I don't want to lose sight of Allison. So also we do leadership development out of the Homeboy Art Academy. So like I just saw, I don't know why, but I saw a little chat that say, how can you hold a session with my team? Oh, that is always available with going through Alegría and Allison. If you would like to set up a leadership development experience, you know, with your staff or anyone of your organization, please feel free to reach out to Allison and Alegría. We'll make that, we'll discuss what that looks like and so on and so forth. And right now that we're living in Zoom life, I think that this is when it lends itself, because I could literally jump on, you know, so, but yeah, that's the way to get at it. And we got a few more minutes if anyone wants to
We've
share.
got about 5 more minutes. Anybody else would like to share? Anybody else has any questions?
Was Elizabeth able to share? I saw her hand up for a little while.
I actually just got my questions answered, but Dr. Fabian, thank you. You're a doctor, PhD in my book. So thank you. Can't wait to come visit. I really appreciate Allison and Alegría just answering my questions. So I'll be there in a jiffy when we're able to get on a plane. So thank you.
And we'll be waiting for you, Elizabeth. The door right here will be open in the academy as well.
I just had a question. My name's Angelina, and do the individuals in the trainees at Homeboy receive this class as part of their program?
We're working towards making it an intentional part of the 18-month model. It's not quite there. It's not quite there yet, but it is only also keeping in mind the interest of the arts. You know, if some of the young men and women, young and adults, will love the arts, then we have the space. But yes, we have the Art Gang, which is the Art Gang, which is a adult leadership program, and we do a lot of healing via the arts, various disciplines. And we also have the Young and the Gifted, and they do from our wraparound services, the youth reentry space, and we do have this type of settings for them as well. Now we want to expand it more, and we're hoping to make it as part of the infrastructure of the 18-month model. That's something being explored now.
Nice. Yeah, I wondered if it was part of that 18-month program and how effective it was in the change in their outcomes. So,
Right.
thank you.
3 more minutes.
The countdown.
I know it's been a long day, but first and foremost, I would just want to thank you all for even for just, paying an interest on what it is that we do here at Homeboy Industries as a whole, but also the fact that you decided to take up on this type of work. For me, it has been a responsibility, and this is a way of making the world a safer place, and all of you contribute to that. And we're at Homeboy, we always say we all hold a piece, and you all do too. And you hold it in a way that you are being deliberate to your participants and your folks that you're working with. And so the fact that you choose to be here, it says a lot and it goes a long way. And so I just want to say thank you all for choosing to be here with us today. Because we could be doing all kinds of other things, but we come to Homeboy to see how we can all contribute. And and there's a lot of things that we offer, and we hope that you take what works that can be implemented in your space. And as Alegria and Allison shared, we're always open for technical assistance and furthering the knowledge, as well as trying to learn what you all bring, because I think we could always here at Homeboy also enhance our efforts. You know what I mean? We've been doing this for a while, but I'm sure there's a lot of great things you all are doing that also need a platform to be shared. And I would like to learn, if you all reach out and want to continue the technical assistance, I would also like to learn to see how it is, what it is you are doing. And what happens in LA may not happen in your state, but there's some common themes and threads that we can identify together to make it that much better for the population and the folks you serve. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you all. May you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. And art works. Art works, and it does. And art is transformative. And I'm glad that I was able to share this exercise with you. That's a little something that you can start to build in your cookie jar and share with others. And if you want more, just reach out and we'll be here available to assist you in any way. Stay safe. God bless. Until we meet again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank